Once again, another show is in the books as we bid adieu to WWE Crown Jewel from Perth, Australia. As we come back to see who scored high, who scored low, who got it perfect, if anybody, who knows? I know, but you all will know soon enough. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Predictions Post-Mortem, WWE edition. This time, as we put Crown Jewel to rest once and for all, as we went down under and we come up from above with the results. I am, of course, the simple man of the simple brand, the voice of the SRS, the booker of the No DQ Prediction Leader, Judges Leader Predicting, forever grateful of Famed Professional Wrestling. Damn it. And my name is Noah Foster. And of course, I am never alone. My fellow statistician, analyst, my brother in all the predictions, statistics, PapaGino. It's heard me too. Hope you all enjoy. Please subscribe, comment, tell a friend. If you want to dictate the conversation, PayPal the passions or super chat. It's as simple as that. And please let your predictions or thoughts be known in the chat as well. Gino, hello again, my brother. Here we are once again putting another show's afterthoughts to rest in our no DQ predictions. How you been?
Oh, I've been well. Thank you so much. Looking forward to this one for sure. And like you said, don't forget to like this video, tell a friend. We look forward to breaking down every premium live event, major premium live event that is that AEW and WWE provide us. And we're looking forward to making some more improvements as we continue this into the new year. So stay tuned.
Yeah, and of
Broken.
course, right? And of course, you guys, your opinions, your predictions, as well as you taking part in the leagues, also shape this as well. So if you have further thoughts on what you would like to see post-show analysis on Put to Rest, please let us know. And as PapaGino so eloquently put, indeed, as we do this for all the biggest shows, particularly right now for main roster, WWE and AEW. We'll expand to NXT, we'll expand to TNA. You guys would have to be the ones to say. But I figured without further ado, Gino, let's go ahead and break it down and put this to rest and see if anybody was able to come up to the test and score 100%. Here's the answer. Nope. The highest score was 5 out of 6. And of course, me and Gino, as you see in the yellow, we tied. But congrats to everybody that was involved. And good to see you all in the chat before we get into it. Jasper Powell, Dwayne Atkinson. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And Dwayne, you see your score right there. You also tied with us. And we also might even expand this to other members of Team No DQ if they want to get involved in the predictions post-mortem. We would love to have other perspectives of those that, of course, predict along with us. But Dino, there you see the scores. You see the tabulations. Pretty close across the board with an average of about 5 for most people, except for, of course, the outliers and Steve-O and Jerry Slaughter and Colin, but we still love them anyway. I don't think necessarily there was a hard show to analyze top to bottom, but there are definitely a couple of matches where we could definitely see why there was not a unanimous vote. But I was actually surprised to see only one match unanimously voted on here. I was at least expecting to.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Going into doing the prediction video and going into Friday evening, because these had to be in super early by 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on a Saturday morning. So if you didn't get your predictions in by Friday night, you probably weren't waking up with enough time to get it done. And Dwayne Atkinson said that he had picked Bronson and changed that to last second. I get the feeling that you're not the only one to do that. Now, that leads us into the first match. We usually have a format we do to break this down, but there's so few matches, we might as well just kind of go with the flow of the show. So
they are in the order of the first show. So.
Yeah, the first match was a surprise to me that was on first, but it was the Australian street fight. We had Bronson Reed versus Roman Reigns. They've had their whole tribal chief versus the tribal thief gimmick, which I think, the Shula Fala should have probably stuck around a little bit more leading into all of this, especially if Roman's taking some more time off. But we can see here that 4 out of 19 people got this correct. It was really hard to bet against Roman Reigns. I thought I have still my pencil, my chicken scratch writing here showing me that I thought Bronson Reed deserved this win. especially with it being potential shenanigans. Shout out to you guys because it's a street fight. There was going to be interference. I didn't even expect the Usos to make the trip just for that. But with what happened after the match, we saw. So JJ, Noah, and Kayfabe and Walter all picked Bronson Reed to win this match. Now, you had mentioned before we went on air that you remembered it was in Australia, so you gave the rub to Bronson. I thought, and I was going to do that as well, but no, but Aaron had me convinced that you can't bet against Roman Reigns. And plus, later on in the show, we had another Australian who I had predicted to win. So I didn't know that they were going to do two, home country heroes, even though one's a heel, to win. But
Right.
obviously, I got this one wrong. Noah got this one right. And Noah, was this just a matter of it being in Australia?
It was a couple of factors because I also look at WWE and 9 out of 10 times they do 50-50 booking. But actually, when I soon remembered Bronson Reed from Australia, and this is also the first time he gets to perform in Australia, because let's not forget, last time they were here, he was becoming a father. I felt they were going to give Bronson Reed the win out of context from that as thank you for your service. But I also look at the developing story with Jey Uso and Roman Reigns. Jay maybe following more of Roman's advice. Jay looking out more so for family versus himself, while Roman even encouraged him, focus on your own stuff, man. And also Roman, ever since he lost his wise men, ever since his bloodline no longer has been truly the ones to acknowledge all the time. It feels like Roman's out to prove a point that at the end of the day, I'm still Roman freaking Reigns. It's more than just being the tribal chief. I need to prove why I am above everyone else's level. I need to do things on my own. To your point, I didn't think that the Usos were going to get involved particularly, but I did expect at least one Uso to be there, Jey Uso. It was Jey and Roman, after all, that did get the better of the vision back at SummerSlam, and I figured they were picking that up. Now, I did not expect Jey to spear Roman through the table to be part of the result. But basically, between Australia 50-50 booking, I had to go with Bronson Reed in this situation. And again, this was also one of those things that I thought of after my sleepy ding on Friday night before I covered Bound for Glory. And thankfully, I was right.
Absolutely. Now, usually when you get something right and I got something wrong, we're usually pretty straight through all the same answer across the board. But there was one that I got right that you didn't. It doesn't happen often,
Damn it.
but if it's going to happen, it's probably going to happen in the WWE predictions because it's certainly not happening in an AEW predictions, most likely. But we'll move on to the next match, which was the Women's Crown Jewel Championship. Only one person thought it was still Tiffy time. For me, and you will hear what you thought in a moment, but for me, it was they're clearly pushing the Stephanie Becker best first year ever narrative, and Tiffany had lost all year, and they were playing that up, and I was like, okay, so she's overdue, and they just gave Stephanie the title, so why have her lose and look weak when there really didn't make any sense? It did. There were some close calls that made me think maybe Tiffany's got it, but Stephanie Becker won, and she was absolutely the correct person to win that. Yeah, we got to figure out a new name for her finisher, by the way. But that looked so crisp and clean. It's really hard to do that with your body. Like they make it look so easy, and this is why they're professionals. But for me, Tiffy time is a little bit on the past its expiration date for me. But they had built her up. She had, I think, had something like 25 wins in a row this year, something like
Right.
that, undefeated. And they're not even really playing up Stephanie for ending her undefeated streak, which I think is odd. But yeah, I thought it was for sure Stephanie. She's got the international acclaim, and Tiffany's just she's honestly, and I've thought this for a little while, despite how good she is in the ring and obviously how easy she is on the eyes, that she was a little mean girly and her voice was like very fakely Barbie dolled, and like that can only go so far. Like I'd rather hear somebody who doesn't speak English as a first language try and fumble their way through a promo than somebody who sounds like they're clearly faking it. So all those things for me was what led to my decision with Stephanie. Now, what influenced you, Noah?
First off, shout out to the Spiral tab because that corkscrew splash was phenomenal. And so far, 2 wins in a row with that very finisher for La Primera, Stephanie Valkyr. Despite the fact that she is more world renowned, as you point out, we are in Australia, and this was her first match in Australia, I think in her entire wrestling career. La Primera, first WWE signed superstar from Chile. She's only been on the main roster for 6 months. If they're going to strap the rocket to her with the fact she was in the Royal Rumble, she won pretty much that over the top Royal at Evolution to earn up to in the first place. She won the SPN Plus premiere. I figured they had to keep going with that momentum. I look at Tiffany Stratton like this, a young girl, cheerleader. Yeah, she's trying to be, prima donna, Beverly Hills, 90210, rich girl. You could put all the pop culture references you want out there. By the way, folks, she's Southern. She's from, I think Minnesota or something like that. She trained with Ken Anderson. So just put it out there. She kind of has that twang in her voice that makes it seem like fake California girl because of that. But also Tiffany Stratton, what's going on for her on SmackDown? She's beating Nia Jax to oblivion that she might as well be in NXT, and they're never, sorry, Gino, let's just call it what it is. They're never seemingly going to give the title to Jade Cargill as long as Tiffany's holding it. I don't know what that is. It's a whole different conversation for another day. But I looked at both these women outside the Temu Super Bowl stipulation like this. Crown Jewel does not, to me, yield implications on the main roster, nor should it. If anything, it feels like a roadblock to trying to develop something on the main roster. God forbid, SmackDown needs more competition for their women's champion. Tiffany Stratton, as you said, has won Tiffany time worldwide since the start of the year. But for me, Stephanie, not only is she the newer superstar on the main roster, they clearly have put far more investment this year in La Primera than they have Tiffany Stratton, who's basically held down the SmackDown brand. Win over Charlotte Flair, win over Trish Stratus. Congratulations. What's next? ... Stephanie Valkyr resets the entire Raw women's division. And right now, the sky's the limit for her. So I had to go for her in this situation. Plus, let's just put it out there. At the end of the day, what used to be bragging rights, at the end of the day, what used to be Survivor Series brand supremacy battle, Crown Jewel has become that, where no matter what, one brand and one world champion is going to look weaker in identity versus the other. But the fact of the matter that the women's world heavyweight champion got a little bit of cred versus the undisputed WWE women's champion. Again, WWE versus world heavyweight. WWE always surpasses world heavyweight. I had to look at also what happened last year. Last year, figure about who was the queen of Crown Jewel as well as the king of Crown Jewel. And I also look at the fact that if Liv Morgan was not injured, would it have been Liv versus Tiffany, and would the result been the same? I would say yes. At the end of the day, there's been more focus on the Raw Women's Championship, despite the fact you haven't had truly consistent defenses than the SmackDown one. So I had to go with Tiffany here based on presentation, based on development, and based on position.
Absolutely. And that actually, I'm going to make a cheap plug for my Major Push Wrestling podcast. The newest episode comes out tonight at 8. But I talked last week or last episode about how WWE makes their decisions on who's champion based on who doesn't have a storyline going. It's like, well, she doesn't have a storyline, we'll give her the championship. So it almost feels like the championship that's why Tiffany's championship, despite her being undefeated, all this stuff has kind of taken a back seat to what's been going on with the women's world title. You had Naomi hurt, you had all these things. And this is what Aaron likes to talk about. Sometimes, it's not hot potatoing, but sometimes shorter reigns make the championship mean more because there are a lot of people fighting for it and a lot of people elevate it. So with that down, we're going to move on to this match that had no championship on the line, but boy, did it ever feel like the main event of a WrestleMania. This was the greatest of all time and versus TNA's greatest of all time. One last time. The time is now. John Cena versus AJ Styles. Obviously, I'm not shy about my inherent born and bred bias towards John Cena, but I'm also a huge AJ Styles fan. So when the opportunity for him to beat up John Cena, that's the best. I think that's the best work that AJ Styles was doing in his career. outside of TNA, I will say, because I didn't watch a lot of that, so I can't speak to that. But inside WWE, him being the face that runs the place, and I'm going to beat up John Cena. And we got one more opportunity, whether or not we were influences to that or not. They like to tell us that we are, maybe make us feel warm and fuzzy. But they were probably planning on this for a while. Coming off of the squash match from Lesnar, AJ Styles got on the announce table at the go home show and was like, we are going to tear the house down. And tear the house down they did. They used to the point they used the only finisher they didn't use was the people's elbow and the rock bottom and the stone cold stunner. Everything else was on the table. The walls of Jericho, the Sister Abigail, the 619, the RKO, the punch, all of these things. And it was magical. It's 9:30 in the morning, give or take, where I was, and I was screaming. I wanted to crack open a cold one just to watch this one because it was that special, that juicy. And John Cena got his win, which he needed to regain the momentum towards the end of his career. Everybody picked John Cena to win, not because we don't think AJ Styles had a chance or doesn't deserve it or anything like that. This is simply the GOAT's time, and AJ Styles' time will come in 2026 when he hangs up his boots. Now, before we throw it to Noah on to why he thought John Cena would win, I just wanted to say when he threw up the 4, I genuinely broke. It broke me. Like, there's only 4 more appearances, not even guaranteed matches with John Cena. And that makes me emotional. I'm going to be honest. So before I get all mushy gushy here at our funeral for Crown Jewel, take it away, Noah. Why did you pick John Cena over AJ Styles?
First off, this was probably the most phenomenal WWE match I have seen all year with a spiritual time capsule on the WWE and TNA greats in Mr. TNA versus Mr. WWE for the 5th time and the final time, the rubber, might I add. Simple as that, as far as what this meant for these two to meet in the ring for the finale. It's one of those things, where I look at John Cena's final run and you think about the real John Cena, pure John Cena, what John Cena wanted to give the fans, remind us what he learned, what he bought, what he put over, go ahead and shovel my left freaking foot, and what meant to him. Especially that moment with the Fireflies looking up to the heavens, forever exalted with no eternal. God rest your soul. I mean, you literally named the playbook of John Cena while AJ Styles put the playbook of TNA, including that limit to Sting, Samoa Joe, Frankie Kazarian. The only thing he didn't do was a Jeff Jarrett Fargo strut. At one point, he did a freaking ankle lock. So, again, this was an homage to literally 2 pioneers of the business across 2 different companies, meeting for one immortal dream encounter for the final time. But I couldn't bet against John Cena thinking about this. To your point, Madison Square Garden, Boston, Massachusetts, Survivor Series War Games, Washington, D.C., Saturday night's main event. That's it. It's one of those things where I also think that John Cena deserved one last super huge marquee win. And I don't know necessarily if you could have had a better match or a better stage than this, with the audience, with the caliber of opponent, with the drive, both men are going to take each other to the ring, with the way they portrayed themselves in this match, particularly from John Cena giving AJ Styles a shoot intro, Bullet Club, hey yo. But it's one of those things also where I look at AJ Styles being, more TNA full time for life. And I remember AJ when he came in, and by the way, shout out to AJ's gear, homaging back to when he first came into TNA for the tunnel. Freaking love that shit. So I had to go with John Cena here out of pure respect, because honestly, if he doesn't win anything else, he also just won his 100th PLE match in his historic WWE career. And I don't think I could have fit a better number to that 100 than a win over phenomenal AJ Styles in the rubber. John Cena 3, AJ Styles 2, and honestly, neither one of us lost in that situation. Thank you, John Cena and AJ.
Yes, and another cheap plug, I talk about why I think Cena's heel turn and subsequent face turn worked for me. And my buddy was on, and he told me why he feels like it didn't work and it could have been better. So you can catch that tonight on my channel at 8 o'clock. But thank you so much John Cena. Um, it's just it's going to be a different world when we are for sure that he's done, and that's going to be a world that I'm not looking forward to living in. And I'm going to, like Michael Cole said, enjoy it while it lasts.
Damn right.
No more
Oh,
messaging to the group talking about how awesome these things are. Full 100% focus, phones down. Everything John Cena does is going to be 100% attention. So, with that down, we had the Herculean task of following that match that should have been a main event and should have been the main event,
yep.
especially since our bonus point ended up, being what it was.
Eh.
But not we're going to get to that later. But Rhea Ripley and Io Sky, two of the best women's wrestlers in the entire world, regardless of company, regardless of country, versus the Kabuki Warriors. You could also argue at least one of them is one of the greatest women wrestlers in the world today, in Kairi Sane and Asuka. So this match was I thought it was pretty easy to predict. I thought for sure one Australian was getting the win. And since I didn't pick Bronson Reed, obviously it was going to be Rhea Ripley. They needed the win more than Asuka and Kyrie because, as I said on the predictions video last Thursday on the No DQ YouTube channel, shout out Aaron Rift, Asuka is going to need more reasons to be mad at Kyrie. And I thought that Kyrie was going to take the pin, which could have been a potential bonus point, but we got the other bonus point, which I thought was a little bit harder to predict. So good on for picking that one. But yeah, Rhea and Io were not this match. The crowd were still very into it. Once Rhea came out, it was a little quiet for the Kabuki Warriors, a little quiet for Io Sky more than, but they were ready to explode for Rhea, and explode they did. We even at one point had a sign in the crowd that says "Bring back Buddy," and that's obviously Rhea's husband, or their fiance. I don't know if they're married. I think they are. So hopefully, maybe we get that down the line. But as far as this goes, there was no chance the Kabuki Warriors were going over. There was talk about potentially misting Kyrie in the face on accident, yada yada yada. But how we had it, I thought was very well done. You obviously picked Rhea Ripley and Io Sky. What went into your decision, Noah?
Well, the fact of the matter that this literally is a story of betrayal, left out of family, and now you only have one friend left in what might be your greatest adversary in WWE history, and the history of Kana, Asuka, and Io Shirai going all the way back to 2009 prior to WWE. The student versus the teacher, senpai versus young girl. I also look at Kairi Hojo, Kairi Sane, as we now know her, very accomplished, of course, prior to WWE, prior Princess. There's a reason why she won the Mae Young Classic. It's just one of those things right now, though, that you look at the star power, you look at the way the story's going as just starting. And to your point, who's the middle person here? Kairi Sane, who still seems to be loyal to Asuka. But loyalty only goes so far when it comes down to humiliation versus humility. Here, Kairi Sane sacrificed herself. You called the finish just like me verbatim. I expected Kairi to take the fall because I don't think this game ends until we get Asuka versus Io Sky one-on-one. And it might be some sort of extreme circumstance for all we know. So it made sense here just from not only the hometown situation with Rhea Ripley, and again, this probably should have been the opener. Australian Street Fight made on friggin' Monday Night Raw, different conversation. You can't go against Mommy down under in Australia. Title, no title, main event, curtain jerker, post-match cooler. It doesn't matter. Really, Sky, we're not losing this for me. There's no way. Kabuki Warriors right now, they're a means to an end and a means to something else to begin. For all we know, we're going to get Rio as a new tag team in the women's division for the time being because Asuka and Kairi Sane might have a fallout. I couldn't go against Rhea here.
And on top of that, WWE doesn't really have a lot of female-centric tag teams. The one that they did, Katana Chance and Caden Carter, they let go. But none of these women tag teams have like their own tag team. It's both just two really good individual stars combined together. Like we don't even get these fun like Y2 Jericho or RK, bro. We don't get even of these names with them. They're very clearly not doing anything with the women's tag team division. Even oh goodness, Sol Ruka and why am I blanking on the other
Zarya.
Australian girl's name? Yes,
Zarya, former Delta.
they don't. They're a tag team, but they don't. It's all like, can they coexist tag teams instead of just like baller tag teams that are making a name in tag team wrestling? But and that just speaks to the point that I had earlier, and then I was on my podcast last time, was that they're giving the championships to Charlotte and Alexa because they don't have any plans for them. It's like, our plan is to make you the champion, but we're not going to put you in any storylines. But I digress. Check out Mean Gino Rant on the other side. Now, we'll move on to what was the main event and the subsequent bonus point, even though John Cena's match should have gone on last, especially since Brock Lesnar, the bonus point was a no. Nothing happened after the match. It was just fireworks, and they're both out there holding hands. Like, okay, cool. I think John Cena ending that with "Thank you, Cena's" and bowing to people would have been a better idea, and it would have added more. You could have swapped these two or something like that. But if you're stuck with not wanting to put 2 men's matches in a row and 2 women's matches in a row, I think the way they designed the card was about as good as it could have been, other than Cena not going on last. But again, you want to make your championships matter, and you do that by making them the end of the show, regardless of if somebody else's storyline is bigger. Now, we both picked no for Brock Lesnar. For me, it was, there's no way he's traveling the 24 hours just to do that.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add to that, Noah, while you pick no before we move to the actual event?
I still say he buried the hatchet with Cody Rhodes back at SummerSlam 2023 that I saw live in Detroit, Michigan. He's not no reason to confront Cody right now. And we've seen Seth and Brock enough times during WrestleMania's 35 run-up. Brock right now has no reason to be involved towards anything regarding the undisputed WWE Championship or the World Heavyweight Championship. Honestly, I don't see Brock being involved in anything right now for any particular reason. So it's just a straight up no for me. Plus, again, like you said, Australia to Canada and vice versa, he is not doing that.
Well, I will say he does live in Canada, so the Indianapolis show for WrestlePalooza made sense, and anything in that general area, northern United States, anything in Canada, theoretically he could go to without having to maybe fly or what have you. But the only thing that made me a little skeptical was when I found out that this match was on last, like during the show, I realized it was going to be on last, and Paul Heyman's involvement. Like, maybe Brock comes back and claims Paul for himself, lays out the whole vision, lays out Seth, not Cody, but Seth, things like that. So that was kind of the only little nugget of possibility in the back of my mind. But as far as the match goes, this is one of those rare instances where I got something right and you got something wrong. So you were feeling QB1, you were feeling the WWE Championship, you were feeling the two-time Crown Jewel champion, the only defending Crown Jewel champion coming into this year. And yes, I do believe that Liv Morgan would have been in this match because they're trying to make it seem like it's something to carry over, but it's not just based on who's the championship. So it's kind of stupid to be it as like it's something you defend. No, it's like the Super Bowl. The defending Super Bowl champion isn't defending crap because they're no longer the champion the next year, and you have to earn your way back to it. But I digress. I picked Seth Rollins mostly because of what happens if he loses. The vision's done. I mean, we saw what happened anyway, but that's because he did a stupid diving headbutt, no reason for the spot whatsoever. And his natural instincts kicked in instead of his wrestling instincts, and he turned to brace the fall instead of taking it like a wrestler where he wouldn't have gotten hurt. You land on your stomach, it doesn't hurt as much as you land on your arms. Doesn't make any sense, but go ahead and Google compound fractures when you're done watching this video, and then it will make more sense. But I digress. Seth Rollins was going to win this match. Cody didn't need the win. Do I think it makes Cody look any weaker? Absolutely not. There's an argument to be made for that, of course. But when you're doing champion versus champion, sometimes Raw wins, sometimes SmackDown wins, but it doesn't look any. We remember Cody Rhodes coming up beating John Cena for the championship. Seth Rollins coming off of cashing in So I think they needed to add a little bit more legitimacy and give the Vision a reason to continue to follow him. I could argue right now that Cody shouldn't even be WWE champion. It should still be John Cena, but I will not because that's happening at 8 o'clock tonight. But Noah, why QB1? What's going on? He can't lose. He can't look any weaker than he has. What's going on? What made you pick Cody the Nightmare?
I just feel like Seth freaking Rollins was at such a fragile eagle standpoint with his vision. And after that talk with Paul Heyman, where I thought he was going to collapse and we were going to see it follow the vision, certainly did. And again, if it wasn't for what actually happened, I probably could have said that being the end game of the vision. For me, I look at Cody Rhodes like this. I think he is truly the TKO's quarterback, number one guy in the company. It felt like for me, Cody Rhodes, he's the guy that you want to probably see him wear all those rings, or he would fairly want to wear all those rings. Which somebody says, well, imagine a guy that freaking wears 10 rings back to back or has like a streak of 5. Now, I'm a simple man. I only watch professional wrestling. I don't watch sports, but I'm pretty sure there's been back to back Super Bowl winners at some point in the history of the NFL. And someone could fact check me on that.
Yes, they absolutely have. The Patriots have done it. The Chiefs have done it. The Broncos have done it. There absolutely have been, yes.
Okay, so thank you for that, Gino. But it's also one of those things where I look at Cody Rhodes and I look at, okay, who has a story in defeat or victory? For me, Cody Rhodes, freelancing right now. The last thing we saw on SmackDown, you know what I mean? Jacob Fatu might finally go up to the main Raw title standpoint and finally challenge him. Looking forward to that. Put Drew McIntyre behind him because, of course, they're just not going to treat Drew McIntyre the way that he should be treated. Damn it. Seth freaking Rollins, how many times we're circling back? LA Knight, Jey Uso, CM Punk. And then Monday Night Raw happens, and what's the main event? Triple threat with those three, and CM Punk's once again back in the title scene. This soon. Whoop-de-doo. Same old song. I was really hoping to see something different come out of this and Seth freaking Rollins losing. This idealism of absolute power biting him in the butt when he can't prove to be the better man. And that subtle way that Paul Heyman talked to Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker during the show saying, if Seth at any point feels like there's a sense of concern, don't go out there. I truly felt that this was going to come down to Seth wanting to prove a point and fumbling. And apparently I was wrong because of hook and my crook with a Rolex he never wore till now. He clapped Cody Rhodes in the jar, avalanche curb stomp, and got the win. So I ate crow. I thought that this would be the night the vision collapses the following. Now, considering Raw is in Australia, in a way I got my wish, just not the way I expected due to your point, injury. I don't think I've ever seen somebody do a diving coast-to-coast headbutt versus a drop kick. And then, like you said, sometimes that innate sixth sense is ignored by the human being, and it bites them in the ass. At the end of the day, professional wrestling, you're on the edge of a lightning bolt, whatever you do. Do or die, the proverbial saying goes. And Seth lived by the sword, died by the sword of his own hubris and instincts versus his wrestling acumen. And not only did he win, it cost him. Sometimes the price of winning is greater than the victory itself. And Seth found that the hard way in 24 hours. I just thought it was going to be him losing that he gets that aftermath, not through an injury. That's why I went with Cody, because at the end of the day, okay, Cody wins. He's got the ring. He can stalk more, blah, 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 blah. Cody loses. What does that really do for him right now? Does that really affect him negatively? And the point right now where he doesn't have any competition, just somebody trying to maybe come at him and challenge him. Seth Rollins, though, with his fragile ego, and truth be told, if everyone got involved here, I could have seen everybody coming out here to cost him the match. If Seth were to lose, you imagine that would question his trust, his confidence, the vision would question him. Punk would try and prey on that. LA Knight would try and prey on that. You build the LA Knight CM Punk storyline. You build Seth's dissension with the vision, etc. And I truly do think that could have been a direction WWE was going to go. But I was wrong.
And it happens, as somebody who's frequently wrong, but also frequently right. That's what happens when you make a bunch of predictions and you do them sometimes without research and sometimes with research. But yeah, again, what they did during the show, they had Paul Heyman speaking ominously to what I have dubbed the future. Now that they're no longer the Vision, right? They could still be the Vision, right? If you think of Vision from Marvel, he was Thor's Vision. But now he's a real thing, and he still goes by Vision as his name. So they might still be called the Vision because it's still, at the end of the day, is Seth Rollins' Vision. But I think they might change the name to the future. They're certainly no longer the Seth Riders, so which is another name that, okay, I'll be honest. I saw it online in like a Reddit thread, but I can't remember who said it. So I took credit for it. come at me, bro. Anyway, I didn't take credit for anything other than the future. I came up with that myself. So we'll see what happens with that. But all in all, you and I both went 5 out of 6, and that should, if anybody remembers the full breakdown of the totals, they'll know that Noah and I are neck and neck. But we are going to reserve that reveal.
Nothing
Oh,
further.
there it is.
Nothing further. Gino's
So
pointing
I
out.
am 1 point behind, and Caitlin is
Yeah, it's
leading
a
by
reservoir loser
3
again.
on Noah and
Yeah,
4 on me. I think that it would take Caitlin getting everyone wrong and us getting everyone right to leapfrog her. At this point, I think she's got it. And I look back to that SummerSlam, to Evolution, to WrestleMania, and the Royal Rumble. She had 4 events that she not. Those aren't denoting perfect, guys. Those are just denoting the most correct out of anybody else.
correct. You'll see the par
So
score in the finale.
yeah, and but yeah, so that looks like it might be already in the bag. But we're gonna try our darndest to try and catch up to her. But I couldn't think of 3 nicer people to be at the top of that list. I know Colin Andrew was neck and neck with me for a little while. They're only 4 points separating third from 8th. So that's could be anybody's ball game coming up. So stay tuned. To Noah's channel at nfoster1916, and my channel, PapaGino0017. Here's the one last look at the breakdown from Australia, Crown Jewel, which I was talking about how it's a stupid name for a thing because they don't have a king, but I guess they do acknowledge the English monarch. So
Yeah.
technically, you could, count it, but I mean that's more of a stretch than TKO is doing with their storylines right now.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And shout out to JJ, by the way, the only member of the team, as I overlooked him, because sometimes I think his fantasy booking is way off tangent. And I think it bites him in the butt. There's a reason why he's in the lower part of the league. He was the only one to get a perfect score in Australia that night, 6 out of 6. So good job for him. But yeah,
yeah,
as I was saying earlier, of course, behind the scenes, you're the only one outside those who watch this video that have seen this breakdown of the show. But since we talked about it, I'll share in the team chat and remind them. Again, to the team, to the galaxy, to everybody involved in the NotiQ Predictions League and City Predicting Partnerships for WWE. Crown Jewel was the pre-ultimate event, the second to last event of the league this year. There's only one event left. Survivor Series War Games. So with that being said, there are no leaderboards until I announce both the team and the Galaxy winner and announce who got the highest score overall outside the entirety of NoDQ. So good luck to all of you in the end here in the finale of WWE. Also,
and maybe we can do like first place, second place, third place, kind of like the Olympics, because there is a lot that goes into this, and we'll acknowledge our number 1 winner. But maybe this 2 and the 3 can get a little bit of a shout out too. Obviously, there's no money involved; it's all for fun. But
I
a
put their
little
name
bit
on
of
a fun little golden board that's first place. I'll show you that leaderboard as far as Series as well, and I'll share that with you as well because I always keep a hall of winners, whether they retired or solo for WWE, AEW, TNA, and ROH, and even NXT when I split NXT up from WWE since I've done these things since 2017. So again, folks, keep enjoying wrestling, keep enjoying life, and if nothing else, hope you enjoy Simply Predicting and also us post-show analyzing. It's a hell of a time. I love this stuff.
Yeah, this is awesome. Don't forget to subscribe to both Noah and myself, and we will see you guys for a breakdown on After Wrestle Dream this coming Wednesday. So
That's right.
from Gino to Noah, we really appreciate all your guys' support, whether you're watching this along with us live and everybody in the chat, or whether you're commenting. Did you get it right? Did you get it wrong? The best thing about being wrestling fans is it's subjective. And with that down, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.
Have a good night, folks. And again, keep on simply predicting and appreciating even when you lose in your thoughts on professional wrestling. We'll see you next week, Wednesday, after Wrestle Dream. Take care.